Hey guys, today's story is a little different. I was in my office, the late afternoon sun spilling golden streaks across my desk, the faint hum of the city weaving through the open window, carrying the scent of asphalt in summer. My phone buzzed with a call from my parents, and their voices, usually warm with affection, were cold, almost mechanical. "There's no room for you at the family retreat this year." The words struck like a sudden frost, stealing the warmth from the room, chilling my bones with a betrayal that felt like a physical blow. Our annual retreat at Lakeview Resort was a sacred tradition, a tapestry of laughter, campfire stories, and shared meals I'd spent years weaving, booking cabins, crafting memories that bound us together. To be excluded, dismissed without a whisper of explanation, was a wound that pulsed with rejection, deeper than I could name. My name's Emma Larson, 36, a freelance event planner who's built a life around uniting people, especially my family. To hear them shut me out, after all I'd poured into our bond, was a sting that burned with raw hurt. And if you think karma's slow, wait until you hear this. So, before you get pulled in, take a second to like this video and subscribe, but only if you actually believe that betrayal always comes back around. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from, and have you ever had someone shatter your trust? Now sit back. Let the room go quiet and let me tell you how it really went down. The call ended abruptly, their words echoing in the silence, a cold refrain that refused to fade. I set my phone down, my hands trembling slightly, and stared at the framed photo on my desk. Last year's retreat, all of us gathered by Lakeview's shimmering water, arms linked, smiles wide under a summer sky. That moment felt like a cruel mirage now, a fairy tale I'd clung to too long. My first instinct was to call back, to demand answers. Why me? Why now? What had I done to deserve this? But the hurt churning in my chest, a molten mix of shock and fury, stopped me cold. Shouting would only feed their expectation of my unraveling, giving them a chance to justify their choice with my reaction. I forced my breathing to slow, each inhale a jagged edge, and let the pain settle, cooling into something sharper, more precise: resolve. I wasn't just wounded, I was awake, seeing my family's true colors with a clarity that burned. I leaned back in my chair, the leather creaking softly under my weight, and let my mind sift through the past few months, searching for the threads of this betrayal. My parents had been distant, their calls shorter, their smiles strained at our last family dinner, their eyes sliding away from mine when I spoke. My siblings, Claire and Ben, had been equally elusive, dodging my questions about the retreat, their texts vague, their voices clipped. I'd attributed it to their busy lives, Claire's new job, Ben's growing family, but now the truth was undeniable. They'd orchestrated this exclusion, a silent conspiracy to push me out of the family's heart. The retreat wasn't just a vacation, it was our ritual, a heartbeat I'd nurtured with care, planning every detail: cabins by the lake, games under the stars to bring us closer. To be told there was no room was a theft, not just of a weekend but of my role, my place in their lives. My throat tightened, grief tangling with a rising tide of anger, but I wouldn't let it drown me. I stood, pacing the room, the hardwood cool beneath my bare feet, the city's hum a faint pulse beyond the window. My office was a testament to my craft, walls lined with calendars of events I'd orchestrated, photos of smiling clients, proof of my gift for creating moments that mattered. I'd made our retreats unforgettable, securing Lakeview's finest cabins, designing itineraries that turned fleeting days into lasting memories. Their dismissal wasn't just personal. It was a rejection of everything I'd built for them, a deliberate erasure of my contributions. I thought of Claire, my younger sister, who'd always envied my knack for planning, her subtle barbs about my need to control cutting deeper in hindsight. Was this her influence, a bid to claim my place, or my parents' choice to favor her over me? The question was a spark, igniting a fire that clarified my path. They expected me to fade, to accept their verdict like a scolded child, to slink away quietly. I wouldn't. I returned to my desk, opening my laptop, my fingers steady despite the storm raging within. I pulled up Lakeview Resort's website. Its images of tranquil waters, rustic cabins, and starlit nights a stark contrast to the coldness of my parents' call. An idea flared, bold and unyielding. If there was no room for me, I'd create my own space in my terms, in a way that would echo long after their retreat ended. I wasn't fighting to be let back into their circle. I was fighting to redefine what family meant, to show them the cost of their rejection. My resolve was a quiet power, a flame that burned steady, unquenched by their dismissal. They'd drawn a line in the sand, but I'd redraw it with a move they'd never anticipate. I closed the laptop, the screen's glow fading into the gathering dusk, and stood in the stillness, the city's rhythm a distant echo. Their exclusion wasn't the end, it was the birth of a plan that would transform their rejection into my triumph. Some betrayals don't just wound you, they forge you into a force they can't outrun. The city's dusk settled over my office, its golden hues fading to a soft gray. The hum of traffic a faint pulse beyond the window. My parents' call, "There's no room for you," still echoed, a wound that fueled a fire within me. Their exclusion from the Lakeview Resort retreat wasn't just a rejection. It was a challenge, and my resolve had hardened into a bold plan. I'd booked the entire resort, turning their dismissal into my triumph. I wasn't fighting to reclaim a seat at their table. I was creating my own, one that would redefine the retreat on my terms. My laptop glowed, Lakeview's website open, its images of cabins in starlit lakes a canvas for my counterstrike. My hands were steady, my mind a sharpened blade, ready to weave a strategy that would leave them stunned. This wasn't about anger, it was about power, and I was taking it back. I started by diving into the resort's booking system, my fingers flying across the keyboard, each click a step toward my goal. Lakeview had 20 cabins, a lodge, and event spaces I'd reserved for years, knowing every detail, the best views, the quietest spots, the staff's quirks. I called the manager, Lisa, a woman I'd worked with for a decade, her voice warm but surprised to hear from me so late. I explained my plan, keeping my tone calm, professional, masking the storm inside. "I want to book the entire resort for the retreat weekend," I said, my words deliberate. Lisa hesitated, mentioning my family's existing reservation, but I pressed, offering to cover all costs up front, a figure I'd calculated from years of planning. Her pause was brief, then she agreed, promising to handle the details. The call ended and I exhaled, a quiet power settling in my chest. Step one was complete. But securing the resort was only the beginning. I needed to ensure my plan was airtight. I opened my financial records, checking my savings and client payments, ensuring I could cover the costs without strain. Event planning had taught me to anticipate every angle. And I wasn't just booking a venue, I was staging a statement. I drafted a contract with Lisa, stipulating exclusive use, my years of experience making the terms ironclad. I also researched the resort's policies, confirming I could override my family's booking with a full reservation. The process was methodical, but my mind churned with the weight of my actions. Was I going too far, turning a family slight into a spectacle? The conflict gnawed at me. Part of me still longed for their acceptance, for the retreats we'd shared. But their cold dismissal had shattered that hope, and I wouldn't let sentiment cloud my strategy. I stood pacing the room, the hardwood cool under my feet, the city's lights flickering outside. My office was a map of my work calendars, client notes, photos of past retreats I'd orchestrated, each a testament to my skill. I'd made those weekends magical, yet my family had deemed me irrelevant. I thought of Claire's jabs, Ben's silence, my parents' detached tone. They'd planned this exclusion, expecting me to fade quietly. That expectation was their mistake, and it fueled my plan. I envisioned the resort, every cabin under my name, my family arriving to find their retreat transformed, not theirs but mine. It wasn't just about the space. It was about showing them the cost of underestimating me, of rewriting my role in their story. I sat back down, opening my contacts to loop in a few trusted allies. I'd need help to pull this off, not just logistically, but to make the retreat a success, to fill the weekend with purpose. I texted Mia, my best friend and fellow planner, sketching the plan, her reply instant. Bold. I'm in. Her support was a spark, easing the isolation of my family's sting. I also emailed my accountant, Sarah, asking her to review the financials, ensuring no surprises. But as I worked, a doubt lingered. This was just a power movie, it was a severance, a final break from the family I'd loved. The conflict was a quiet ache, but I pushed it aside. They'd chosen this path, not me. I closed my laptop, the screen's glow dimming, and stood in the silence, the city's rhythm a faint pulse. The night deepened, but my resolve was alight, a flame unquenched. I thought of Lakeview, its cabins waiting, a stage I'd reclaim my place not as their daughter, but as a force they'd tried to erase. My plan was bold, but it was mine, each step a testament to my strength. I'd booked the resort, but this was bigger, a declaration that I wouldn't define by their rejection. My heart was steady, my mind clear. They'd said no room, but I'd make theirs a space they'd never forget. I returned to my desk, my notebook open, ready to refine the details. Their exclusion was their mistake. My response would be their lesson. Some plans aren't just revenge theory, the blueprint for a life you take back. The city's night had deepened, its lights a constellation beyond my office window. The air thick with the scent of cooling coffee. Booking Lakeview Resort in its entirety was a bold stroke, a plan to turn my parents' no room into a stage for my triumph, but it was a solo act so far, a skeleton needing flesh. To make this retreat a statement, I needed allies, loyal friends who'd stand with me, not just to fill cabins, but to transform the weekend into a celebration of my strength, one that would echo in my family's stunned silence. My laptop was still open, Lakeview's confirmation email glowing, a testament to my resolve. I wasn't just reclaiming a resort, I was redefining family, and I couldn't do it alone. My phone lay beside me, its screen a gateway to those who'd helped me build this vision. I picked it up, my fingers steady, my heart a quiet forge, ready to assemble a team that would make my counterstrike unforgettable. My first call was to Mia, my best friend since college, a fellow event planner whose creativity matched my own. She'd always been my sounding board, her loyalty a constant through years of family tensions. I called her, my voice calm but urgent, and laid out the plan. My parents' exclusion, my decision to book the entire resort, my vision for a weekend that would outshine their retreat. They shut me out, I said, the words steady despite the ache they carried. So I'm taking the stage. Mia's laugh was sharp, her response instant. This is epic, Emma. I'm in, let's make it legendary. Her enthusiasm was a spark, igniting my confidence, but it also stirred a conflict. Gratitude for her support clashed with a pang of guilt. I'd kept my family's slights private, even from her, out of a misplaced sense of loyalty. That loyalty was gone now, replaced by a need to build with those who truly saw me. Next, I contacted Lucas, a caterer I'd worked with on countless events, his knack for turning meals into memories a perfect fit for my vision. He answered on the second ring, his voice warm but curious. I explained the situation, the betrayal, the resort, my plan to host a weekend that would redefine the retreat. I need your magic, I said, picturing his signature spreads by the lake. Count me in, he replied, his tone firm. They don't know what they're missing. His commitment was a brick in my foundation, but the weight of leading this effort pressed harder. This was my fight, my wound, and while their support was vital, I couldn't lean on them indefinitely. The conflict was a quiet tension, but I channeled it into action, focusing on the plan taking shape. We met at my apartment, turning my living room into a command center, the air alive with the rustle of papers and the clink of coffee mugs. I spread out Lakeview's layout, cabins, lodge, event spaces alongside my notes. Guest lists, activities, a vision for a weekend that would rival anything my family had known. Mia's eyes gleamed as she sketched ideas: live music, a bonfire, workshops to fill the days. Let's invite people who matter to you, she said, suggesting friends, clients, even distant cousins who'd always admired my work. Lucas nodded, proposing a menu of local dishes, a feast to anchor the retreat. Their ideas were a tapestry, weaving my bold move into something vibrant, but I felt the pressure of orchestration. This wasn't just about outshining my family, it was about proving I could create joy without them. We strategized late into the night, the city's hum a faint backdrop. Mia suggested a theme: new beginnings, to frame the weekend, a subtle nod to my break from the past. Lucas offered to source vendors who'd prioritize my event, ensuring no overlap with my family's plans. I outlined my role, coordinating with Lakeview's staff, finalizing bookings, and curating a guest list that would fill the resort with warmth, not resentment. The plan was precise, but doubt crept in. Was I replacing one family with another, or simply masking the hurt? The conflict was a shadow, but I dismissed it. My parents had chosen exclusion, I was choosing creation. I stood, pouring fresh coffee, my movements deliberate, a quiet power in my resolve. This retreat would be mine, a testament to my strength, not their rejection. As dawn approached, we wrapped up, Mia and Lucas promising to follow through on their tasks. I stood alone, the weight of our plan settling into me. I thought of my parents' call, their cold certainty I'd fade. They'd underestimated me, thinking I'd retreat into their verdict. With Mia and Lucas by my side, I was building something stronger than their dismissal, a community rooted in trust, not obligation. My resolve was a flame burning bright. They'd said no room, but I was carving out a space they'd never forget. I sat back down, my notebook open, ready to refine the details. Their betrayal was their mistake. My response would be their lesson. Some alliances don't just support you, they become the strength that rewrites your story. The city's morning light poured through my apartment's windows, casting a warm glow over the living room, now a war room littered with retreat plans and coffee mugs. With Mia and Lucas by my side, my bold strategy to book the entire Lakeview Resort was taking shape, a direct answer to my parents' cold, "There's no room for you." Their exclusion from our family retreat had been a calculated wound, but today, I'd flipped that rejection, securing the resort and transforming it into a stage for my triumph. The confirmation email from Lisa, Lakeview's manager, sat open on my laptop, proof that my deposit had locked in every cabin, lodge, and event space for the weekend. This wasn't just about taking spacey, it was about rewriting the narrative, showing my family the cost of their betrayal. My hands were steady, my mind a sharpened blade, ready to execute the takeover that would leave them speechless. I started with a call to Lisa, the morning air crisp as I paced my apartment, the hardwood cool under my feet. Her voice was professional but warm, a reminder of the trust we'd built over years of retreat bookings. I confirmed the details: exclusive use of the resort, staff briefed, my family's smaller reservation overridden by my full buyout. "It's all yours, Emma," she said, her tone hinting at curiosity she didn't voice. I thanked her, my voice calm, masking the storm of anticipation within. Hanging up, I felt a quiet power, a moment of control that anchored me. The resort was mine, a canvas I'd paint with my vision, not theirs. But the weight of the act pressed in, taking Lakeview. I was severing a tradition I'd cherished, a final break from the family I'd loved. The conflict was a dull ache, but I pushed it aside, focusing on the task at hand. I sat at my desk, opening my laptop to finalize the logistics. Mia had sent a draft schedule: live music by the lake, a bonfire, craft workshops, each element designed to outshine the retreats I'd planned for my family. Lucas had emailed a menu, featuring local dishes and a lakeside barbecue, a feast to draw my guests together. I reviewed their work, adding my touches, a welcome speech to set the tone, a guest list of friends, clients, and distant cousins who'd always valued me. My fingers moved with precision, but my mind wandered to my parents, Claire, Ben, their faces when they'd arrive, expecting their retreat, only to find me at the helm. Would they be angry or humbled? The question was a flicker of doubt, but I quelled it. They'd chosen exclusion. I was choosing to redefine what belonged to me. I drove to Lakeview that afternoon, the highway stretching toward the resort, its familiar pines a bittersweet reminder of past retreats. The gravel crunched under my tires as I pulled into the lot, the lake sparkling under a clear sky. Lisa met me at the lodge, her clipboard in hand, and we walked the grounds, checking cabins, the event pavilion, the dock where I'd once taught Claire to fish. I outlined my setup: string lights, a stage for the band, tables for Lucas's feast, each detail a brick in my vision. Lisa nodded, her efficiency a comfort, but her glance lingered, as if sensing the weight of my plan. "This is big, Emma," she said softly. I smiled, my voice steady. "It's necessary." The moment was a quiet power, a confirmation that I was in control, not my family's dismissal. Back at the lodge, I finalized the guest list, emailing invitations with Mia's New Beginnings theme, a subtle nod to my break from the past. Responses flooded in: friends eager to join, clients intrigued, cousins who drifted from my parents' orbit. Their enthusiasm was a lifeline, easing the isolation of my family's rejection, but it also deepened my conflict. I was building a new community, but at the cost of the old one, the family I'd once centered my life around. I thought of my parents' call, their detached tone, Claire's envy, Ben's silence. They'd expected me to fade, to accept their verdict. That expectation was their error, and it fueled my drive. This retreat would be a mirror, reflecting their mistake in vivid color. As dusk fell, I returned home, the city's lights twinkling like stars. Mia and Lucas texted, confirming vendors and schedules, their support a steady hum. I stood at my window, the skyline a reminder of what I'd built, events, connections, a life of my own. Lakeview was mine now, not theirs, a space I'd fill with warmth they'd never match. My resolve was a flame burning bright, unquenched by doubt. They'd said, no room. But I'd taken the entire stage, turning their exclusion into my victory. I sat back down, my notebook open, refining the final details. Their betrayal was their choice. My response was my power. I closed my eyes, envisioning the resort alive with my guests, my vision. Some takeovers don't just claim space. They reclaim the story you were always meant to tell. The city's evening air was cool as I finalized the Lakeview Resort plans, my apartment a hub of retreat schedules and guest confirmations, the scent of fresh ink lingering from printed itineraries. Securing the entire resort had been a bold reversal, transforming my parents' no room into a stage where their exclusion now played out as my triumph. With Mia and Lucas's contributions, vibrant activities, and a feast to anchor the weekend, my vision was set, the resort poised to host a gathering that would eclipse my family's retreat. But the fallout was unfolding, their carefully laid plans unraveling as my move took hold. My phone buzzed with updates from Mia, hinting at my family's shock, while my heart carried a mix of vindication and sorrow. I wasn't just reclaiming space. I was rewriting our family's story, and the cost was a bond I'd once held dear. I sat at my desk, my laptop's glow casting shadows, my resolve a steady flame ready to navigate the consequences of their mistake. The morning brought a call from Lisa, Lakeview's manager, her voice tense but professional. My family had contacted her, confused and frustrated, having learned their reservation was voided by my full buyout. They're asking for cabins, she said, pausing. I told them we're fully booked. I thanked her, my tone calm, but inside, a storm of emotions swirled, satisfaction that they'd felt my move, tempered by a pang of guilt for the disruption. I pictured my parents, Claire and Ben, arriving at Lakeview, expecting their usual setup, only to find the resort alive with my name, my guests, my vision. The image was a quiet victory, but it also deepened a conflict within me. I'd wanted them to see my worth, not to strand them, yet their exclusion mirrored the one they'd inflicted on me. I pushed the guilt aside, focusing on the weekend ahead, a testament to my strength. I checked my emails, finding a message from Claire, her words sharp. "What are you doing, Emma? This is low." My stomach twisted, her accusation a barb, but I didn't reply. Her anger confirmed they'd felt the sting of my takeover, their retreat appended by my bold stroke. Mia sent a news snippet from a local travel blog, noting Lakeview's exclusive event, booked by a renowned planner, my name subtly highlighted. The buzz was growing, my retreat gaining traction while my family's plans crumbled. Social media showed their confusion, Ben's vague post about family plans changing, Claire's cryptic complaint about unexpected hurdles. Their world was faltering, and I'd lit the fuse, but the cost was a family I'd never fully reclaim. The conflict was a quiet ache, but I channeled it into action, refining the retreat's details to ensure it shone. I met Mia at a cafe, its air thick with espresso and morning chatter, to review the final schedule. She slid a tablet across, showing confirmed vendors, musicians, artisans, Lucas's catering team, all ready to make the weekend unforgettable. "Your family's out of luck," she said, her eyes gleaming. "The resort's yours, and it's going to be epic." Her enthusiasm was a spark, but I felt the weight of what I'd done. I'd turned their tradition into my stage, but at what price? Mia sensed my hesitation, her voice softening. "They pushed you out, Emma. You're just showing them you don't need them." Her words were a quiet power, a reminder that my fight was just. I sipped my coffee, its bitterness grounding me, and nodded, resolving to see this through. The retreat was my answer, not their loss. By afternoon, Lucas texted, confirming his menu was set, his team prepping for a lakeside feast that would outshine any my family had known. He'd also heard through vendors that my parents were scrambling, trying to book a nearby hotel, their plans in disarray. The news landed like a stone, proof that my takeover had hit its mark, but it also stirred a flicker of sadness. I'd wanted them to feel my absence, not to flounder entirely. I stood in my living room, the city's hum a faint pulse, and let the reality settle. Their retreat was unraveling, their control slipping, and I'd orchestrated it. Yet, as their world faltered, I felt a shift, not just vindication but a need to move beyond it. I didn't want to be defined by their failure but by what I'd create. I opened my notebook, jotting ideas for future events, a vision of a life untethered from their rejection. The day closed with a call from Lisa, confirming my family had given up, opting for a small gathering elsewhere. My retreat was set, the resort ready to welcome my guests, a community I'd chosen. I didn't celebrate. Their downfall was their own, but my heart carried a trace of loss, a family I'd loved now distant. My resolve was steady, a flame that didn't waver. I thought of Claire's email, Ben's post, my parents' silence. They tried to erase me, but I'd made them see me. Lakeview was mine, a space I'd filled with my strength. I closed my laptop, the screen fading, and stood in the quiet. My fight wasn't over, but its purpose had shifted to build, not to break. Some victories don't just reclaim space, they redefine the home you were always meant to find. The city's dawn light seeped through my apartment's blinds, casting a soft glow over the living room, now cleared of retreat plans, the air carrying the faint scent of lavender from a candle I'd lit to mark the end of my preparations. My takeover of Lakeview Resort had unraveled my family's retreat. Their no room met with my bold stroke of booking the entire venue, turning their exclusion into a stage for my triumph. With Mia and Lucas's help, the weekend had been a success. Cabins filled with laughter, a lakeside feast under starlight, music and workshops weaving a community that felt like home. My parents, Claire and Ben, had retreated to a small hotel, their plans in tatters, their silence a testament to my victory. Yet, the triumph was bittersweet, a quiet ache for the family I'd lost tempering my resolve. Now I turned to forging new bonds, reflecting on the justice served and the path ahead. I stood at my desk, my notebook open to plans for future events, my heart a steady forge ready to build a life free from their rejection. The retreat's echoes lingered as I sipped coffee, its warmth grounding me. I'd welcomed guests, friends, clients, distant cousins who'd embraced my new beginnings theme. Their presence a balm to my family's sting. Mia's bonfire had sparked stories, Lucas's feast had drawn cheers, and my welcome speech, delivered by the lake, had set a tone of resilience. But as I'd watched my guests connect, I'd felt a conflict. Joy in the community I'd created clashed with sorrow for the family I'd left behind. I'd spent years planning retreats to unite them, believing love meant inclusion. Their exclusion had shattered that, but the weekend showed me I could build without them. I pushed the sorrow aside, focusing on the new bonds I'd forged, a foundation stronger than their dismissal. I met Lucas at his catering kitchen, its air rich with spices and the clatter of pans, to debrief. He'd heard through vendors that my family's hotel gathering was a flop, sparse, strained, a shadow of Lakeview's vibrancy. "You showed them," he said, his grin wide. "Your retreat's the talk of the town." His pride was a spark, reinforcing my strength, but I didn't revel in their failure. I thanked him, sharing plans for a spring festival, a new project to carry us forward. His nod was a quiet promise, a bond forged in the fire of my fight. I'd chosen allies who saw my worth, not my absence, and their trust was a quiet power, a chance to create without the weight of family ties. Mia joined me later at my apartment, her tablet glowing with photos from the retreat guests dancing, the lake aglow, my smile brighter than I'd expected. "You built a family," she said, her voice soft. "Not theirs, yours." Her words were a beacon, cutting through the lingering doubt. Could I sustain this, a life untethered from my past? Or was I chasing a shadow of what I'd lost? The conflict was a challenge, but I embraced it, sketching ideas for a community event series, workshops, markets, gatherings to keep the retreat spirit alive. I thought of Claire's sharp email accusing Ben's silence, my parents' detached call. They tried to erase me, but I'd built something they couldn't touch, a space where I belonged, defined by my vision, not their rejection. By afternoon I walked through my office, its walls lined with retreat photos, each frame a testament to my resilience. I'd started planning the festival, contacting vendors, envisioning a town square alive with music and light. The work was mine, a declaration of independence from the retreats I'd once crafted for them. But as I stood there, a memory surfaced: Claire's laughter by the lake, my dad's campfire stories, my mom's smile during a quiet moment. The loss was a faint sting, a reminder that I'd fought for them, but I'd built something they couldn't touch, a space where I belonged, defined by my vision, not their rejection. By afternoon I walked through my office, its walls lined with retreat photos, each frame a testament to my resilience. The work was mine, a declaration of independence from the retreats I'd once crafted for them. But as I stood there, a memory surfaced: Claire's laughter by the lake, my dad's campfire stories, my mom's smile during a quiet moment. The loss was a faint sting, a reminder that I'd fought for them, but they'd chosen another path. I didn't need their approval anymore. I needed to grow to rise. I sat at my desk, my pen steady, drafting a mission for my events, a commitment to connection, not exclusion. As night fell, I stood on my balcony, the city's glow a soft embrace. Mia and Lucas texted, their support a steady hum. Plans for the festival already sparking. I thought of Lakeview, now a memory of triumph, and my family's silence, a lesson they'd carry. Justice wasn't just their retreat, it was my rise. A life built on my terms. The conflict was resolved. A quiet strength forged in their betrayal, now a foundation for growth. I lit a candle, its flame dancing, and let the stillness settle. My path was clear, not defined by their loss, but by what I'd create. My notebook closed, heavy with possibility, and I stood in the quiet, the city's rhythm a heartbeat. My family's exclusion was their mistake. My response was my legacy. Some endings don't just close a door, they open a world where you're the one who belongs. The months that followed bloomed slowly, like spring after a long winter. My festival launched, the town square alive with music, vendors, and faces from Lakeview. Each event a thread in a community I'd woven. My parents' retreat faded, their gatherings small, their name absent where mine grew bright. I didn't seek their remorse or Claire's apology. I sought my peace, found in the laughter of new friends, the trust of clients, the hum of a life I'd crafted. Mia and Lucas stayed close, their bond of family stronger than blood. I'm not the Emma who chased inclusion, who tied her worth to a family's embrace. I'm sharper now, forged by betrayal but not hardened, freed. Pain doesn't just wound. It teaches you to build better, to choose yourself. My events are my mirror, reflecting my resilience, my growth. I stand in the square, my logo glowing under festival lights, and feel a calm that runs deep. This isn't the end of my story, but it's the end of theirs and mine. I've risen not as a victim, but as a woman who knows her place is wherever she creates it. The stars shine, the night's soft around me, and I am whole.